sports, 100% reflective. Sometimes it's Raven. Sometimes it's other teams affected. Hold on tight, strap in. It's going to get hectic. Couch Rider Report, an original sports perspective.
Hey, welcome back to the home of original sports perspective. From our couch to yours, this is your host, the Couch Rider Raven Jermaine Lockett. Hey, it's time to pass that collection plate. I'm not asking for a cash app. I'm not asking for any of those other things involving the financial piece here. What I'm asking for is free. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and smack that bell so you know when it's going down. We're trying to make it to 1,000. We are getting that little by little. I appreciate you coming through. Now that the collection plate has passed, let's get down to business. Spencer Schultz, this guy, I really appreciate everything he does on Twitter because he really puts down some great tweets out there that helps inform Ravens. I think his site is called Ravens for Dummies, and he's one of the better Baltimore beatdown writers. It's just he's always there, and he put down something the other day that I thought was impressive, and that just made me think about and wanted to dig in on this topic. Okay, tweet says, I feel like Keith Williams will make strides with his start-stop ability in routes, will pay dividends considering his vertical speed. He was talking about a wide receiver, of course, but what I keyed in on was the start-stop ability. This start-stop ability, it's good, but it's also can be bad. Like, it is the main difference between this year's camp and last year's camp. And the reason I say that is because, well, look at all the injuries. Look at all of the injuries that are happening to the wide receivers. Is this start-stop ability causing groin and hamstring injuries to the wide receivers? So, of course, I went and looked this up on Wikipedia, WebMD, other different sources that I could find when it came to hamstring injuries. And it happens because tendons and muscles are being stretched beyond their limits. And they happen between sudden explosive movements. So it's just simply going in and out of breaks the way that they're doing, the way they're teaching with the Baltimore Ravens right now. There is a particular route that I saw that was repetitively done over and over and over again. Not a route, but a drill. And it was a drill to where the player would come up to, after about 5 yards, let's say, and then they would do this chair sit down. It almost looked like they were sitting down in a chair to break down and open up the corner's hips, and then they would break left or right. Well, if you're doing that in an explosive type of way, too much, it can cause the hamstring to stretch and then end up popping or end up having some type of hamstring or groin injury if you're constantly exploding in and out of those movements. So you see, Keith is out there and he's got these guys doing this, and it's over contracting the muscle at the time. And if players are not conditioned to this yet, if they had been starting to do this like at the beginning of the year, they probably got the hamstring injuries out of the way. But they started doing this in camp repeatedly, and it's like stretching a rubber band. You constantly keep stretching this rubber band over and over and over and over and over and over, exerting this rubber band. Eventually, it's going to pop. And once that rubber band pops, of course, that's your hamstring right there. That's your hamstring injury. So just imagine something going from like your tailbone to the back of your knee through both legs. Like imagine rubber bands there. We're just breaking it down very simply. And that's just being stretched constantly. And every time you sit down, that's when the ultimate stretch is beginning, because that's when everything is contracted. So we want you to be in shape, but not necessarily to where you are pushing this rubber band to its limits. So this injury is common among most speedsters. And you're like, okay, well, why didn't it happen to Lamar Jackson? Well, Lamar Jackson is not doing these sudden explosion burst type movements. Plus, he's not training with the wide receivers to do what they do. He's naturally fast. And does he have sometimes when he has to cut on a dime to get past the defender? Yes. But is he constantly doing it repetitively in drills? No. And I got some history to back this up as well. So I'm not saying Keith is destroying the wide receivers. I do think he is callousing them up. And when he worked with some of the best receivers out there, some of the similar injuries happened to these players throughout the time that he was with them. So if you look at the history of Davante Adams, let's say. So Davante had a 2020 grade 2 hamstring injury in September of 2020. And then if you look at Tyreek's injury history, I mean, one of the fastest burners out there, right? He's got 3 different hamstring injuries. One of them in August of 2020, another in December of 2020, and then one after that in August of 2021. And they were grade 1, grade 2, and then grade 1 injuries again because of the particular routes that they are running. These explosive sit-down, stand-up type routes where they're stretching that rubber band like crazy. Plus, Tyreek might have been racing old people in the street dressed as an old man during the offseason. That might have had something to do with that. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And you're probably wondering, well, why hasn't this happened to Devin Duvernay? Well, Devin Duvernay has legs almost like a mini Saquon Barkley. So he has very conditioned, strong legs built for that explosion. If you look at the size of Sammy Watkins and Hollywood Brown and Rashad Bateman's legs, they don't have even compare to what Devin Duvernay's are. So he is conditioned to be able to handle that load on his hamstrings because he's just got a lot more muscle there. When it comes to those other guys, they are built for speed and not as much muscle, not as much weight there. So it can vary when it comes to that explosionness and that route, how much muscle you have in there to build on. You can even look at Sammy Watkins' injury history, and we know that is one of the most injured players on the Baltimore Ravens receiving core. 2014, he had a groin injury. 2015, glute. October 2019, hammy, grade 1. August 2020, groin, grade 2. October 2020, hammy, grade 2. August 2021, hammy, grade 1. All these injuries could be attributed to the explosiveness of the route. So this information for all those injuries came from Draft Sharks, but I'm just looking it up just for historical purposes, just to relate it to what we got going on here. You're probably wondering, like, okay, well, why didn't James Prochet end up getting hurt? Why didn't a couple of other players end up getting hurt? I'll be honest with you, they're just not that fast. One of the people on the Let the Black Man Talk on Twitter said, hey, James' name should be James Slowshay. The thing about James Prochet is he's going to get it done whether he's fast or not. And so he wasn't necessarily as fast in and out of his breaks on those drills, but he still got the job done. When it comes to injuries and setbacks, yes, they're going to happen. All these players are going to get injured, but they're going to callous up. They're going to be stronger. I think Keith Williams is on the right track. Some of these players that I mentioned, they were great because they stuck with it, even though they had these injuries. You know, they have Super Bowl rings. They have big seasons because they stuck with it and they fought through these injuries. And now they're back at the top of the league in their games. I'm hoping that Keith sticks with it, has these guys callous up a bit, and come back great. Baltimore's receiving core is on the rise, folks. Be on the lookout. This is the home of original sports perspective. From our couch to yours, this is your host, the Couch Rider Raven. Make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, and smack that bell so you know when it's going down, baby. 2 claps. Fade to black.